hopefully get to that stage where you can take down the top teams and really compete.
And part of taking down those top teams and competing begins before you ever get on Summoner's Rift. The draft phase, we talked about how it was a little bit of a weakness for both of these teams, and we're jumping into it now here in week number 3 as Ryze, Kha'Zix, and Jace going to be banned away by Envy as Liquid responds with those typical red side bans of Camille and Rengar starting things off, and LeBlanc will round it out.
So already one of our questions has been answered. You know, Envy is not going to replicate the pick ban strategy, the triple ban junglers that we've seen a lot of teams doing, trying to target ReignOver, has been working for people, but not willing to do it. And one thing we do see here that is kind of a nod to 7-2 is the Kha'Zix ban. They're not willing to pick Kha'Zix first because they're prioritizing Varus so heavily, and thus they're going to have to ban it out because they don't want to give it over second rotation.
Varus, very, very strong right now. Those lethality changes definitely doing him some nice favors as well. No real surprise to see a power pick like that prioritized so heavily.
Exactly, and I mean, the thing with Jhin is, while he is very strong with lethality as well, his laning phase is weaker than both Varus and the Ashe, right? Ashe didn't really get helped by the lethality changes, so thus you kind of see Varus at the top of the table. That said, you can have a big contribution from the Jhin as he hits those power spikes, hitting the Ghost Blade and stuff. Your ultimate can become very, very powerful.
The response, along with that Jhin, also going to be the Olaf locked in on the side of Liquid as Envy decides their first 2 picks are actually going to be both of the guys positioned down there in the bottom lane, picking up the Zyra as well. A very powerful support, hasn't really changed in 7.2, still going to be super strong there in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think it really is smart. You pair these two together, you're going to have such a strong pushing lane, poking lane, very, very good all-in as well. I mean, if you can catch someone in that chain of corruption, you can follow up very easily with the Zyra ultimate. It's good team fight, it's good poke, and just a very strong lane. And I think that Jhin is going to struggle into any sort of lane like this because he is going to get pushed in, and thus the lane advantage should go to Envy.
And the roles are going to be traded perfectly equally. AD carry, supports, and jungles locked in on both of these sides. Rek'Sai for Envy, and it's going to be Karma locked in by Team Liquid as we move into the second ban phase. And it's actually Gangplank banned away first by Liquid.
So Gangplank is definitely not something we have been seeing a lot of. It has shown up from time to time in LCK, even Huni was playing a top lane. We've seen it played a little bit mid, a little bit top. This is very likely a nod to something that has been going on in scrims, strategies that we've seen shown off there. Seraph is a guy who loves to play those carry-style top laners, and Gangplank does kind of have a lot of free matchups against some of the meta tanks right now in top lane.
Plus, we've seen the stats coming up for the different comparisons between roles across the board. Seraph's one of the guys who has the higher stat lines compared to his opposing top laners, and we know how well Gangplank can convert a lead into a carry just because of how much extra gold he gets farming with those barrels in those far lanes.
Yeah, exactly, and you can help out aggressively around the map while still playing passively in your lane. But anyway, he is banned, so enough of that. GoldenGlue is going to be targeted more as we have seen already Ryze kind of banned towards him. We see the Syndra as well. Wouldn't have been surprised to see another ban towards GoldenGlue as he has been a weak spot for Liquid. And I think that's one area that Envy would be looking to get their advantages with Ninja in the mid lane. But they are going to show that respect to Lourlo. His Fiora did do work earlier in the LCS, and they're not willing to leave that up.
Both sides respecting the carry potential out of the top lane from their opponents. Fiora, Cassio, Gangplank, and Syndra is going to be your second ban phase as Piglet locks in the Shen.
Yeah, and the Shen now does kind of give away, hey, why did you ban Gangplank? Well, because it absolutely blasts Shen. It's really, really good matchup. Just the fact that you can orange out of basically every taunt makes it so that Shen has such a difficult time. They are going to be able to secure that for themselves, and it's giving them that strong global presence. We've seen Shen be extremely popular in other regions. You know, EU, it's very popular. We've been seeing it. Cloud9 has been playing it, but we haven't seen it really take hold in NA. In general, we have been seeing a lot more Maokai and things like that, which is actually open. But Shen just does give you the flexibility to make big plays on the bot lane. And it would not be surprising to me to see another kind of roaming mid laner go to GoldenGlue, so you really can have those kind of 5-man bot situations. Jhin ult opens up, you have ReignOver flying in with the Ghost, ultimate coming in from Shen. I think that could be something they're trying to get.
And Team Envy decides that the power of the Zyra isn't enough AP damage on its own, so they're going to complement it with Rumble and Corki to be those solo laners. Corki's so popular, so strong in the mid lane right now, and we know the kind of AoE pain the Rumble can bring.
Definitely, and this is Seraph's kind of style, right? He likes to pick 4 lane. He wants to be the carry, and Rumble is another great matchup into Shen. Obviously, the parry zone from Shen is one of his greatest strengths against Rumble. Doesn't really matter that much because the Flame Spitter chews right through that. You should have a nice lane matchup. That said, It's pretty frightening if you're pushing in as the Rumble without cover from your jungler, because Shen plus the Olaf can easily run you down, and when Rumble gets behind, it can start to get pretty ugly.
Such is the nature of carry top laners. The last pick we didn't really get a chance to touch on too much, but the Orianna was selected as the mid laner for Liquid to deal with that corki.
And I think Orianna makes a fair bit of sense here. You know, it is not that roaming mid laner like I might have expected. Seeing things like TF and Taliyah, I think, work really well with these kind of semi-global compositions. That said, Orianna is a very stable team fighter, brings wave clear, and you do have a good ball delivery system with that Shen kind of flying in with the Orianna ball. You can look for the shockwaves.
Yeah, the flash taunts on their own, very, very deadly. When you've got an Orianna shockwave ball attached to him, it can become a serious game changer. We'll have to see if those guys can manage to make that happen, because the champions have been locked in, the coach's hands have been shaken, and we're loading into Summoner's Rift for the first time today. So much on the line here, a very important game for both of these teams.
It certainly is. It's still early in the season, but playoffs, you know, is looming in the distance, and you need to start working towards that throughout the system. Picking up wins whenever you can is very, very important for these teams that are not going to be probably at the very top of the table.
When you're competing for the middle of the pack, the difference between a single spot can mean going to playoffs or not going anywhere at all. And both of these teams got to be keeping that in mind as they're out the gate and off onto the Rift to see if we're going to get any sort of action here at level 1. I don't particularly see it as being too likely. The line of scrimmage just kind of being drawn across the river.
Yeah, one thing you do sometimes see in these games with Olaf is just kind of the sneaky play where you just walk into the bot lane bush and hope someone face checks you, because Olaf's level 1 is ridiculously strong, and if you get tagged by an axe, often means that there is a summoner forced. So that is a play you can go for, but ReignOver is just going to play line of scrimmage. They don't want to be kind of warded out, and I think that makes a lot of sense with who ReignOver is as a player. When you talk to the other junglers, even though ReignOver has not been having a great season, you talk to all these amazing mechanical junglers, and there are a lot of them in North America now, they all still talk about how smart ReignOver is. That's why he gets his advantage. He outthinks you. He takes a path that you cannot figure out. He's somewhere you don't expect, and hiding your start as a jungler like that is going to be more valuable.
And we really want to keep an eye on ReignOver, especially this game, because, you know, going into this, we were kind of talking about his champion pool, how he's been limited, how previous matchups against TSM and P1 have kind of taken advantage of that and put him in a spot where he hasn't been able to be that big playmaker, that game decider that we've seen him be in the past. So without that strategy of the pick and ban, maybe ReignOver's going to get to do what ReignOver likes to do here against Team EnVyUs.
Certainly could. And LirA, you know, new guy on the team, he is someone who has been kind of looking to step up and make a big difference for this team. And ReignOver here is looking very low, but Olaf does more damage, attacks more quickly as you get low. So he's going to try to do this greedy clear where he stays very low in health and actually doesn't use his potions to increase the speed of his clear. And this could be a jungle path that the opponents don't really expect. You can get a very fast level 3, get double buffs, head bot lane with that ghost. And you can look for things like that.
It's the nature of the game. Risk versus reward. Keep that health low. Farm up as fast as you can. And speaking of farming, we've seen LirA play the Rek'Sai a couple of times since his debut last week in week number 2. He farms very, very effectively on the champion. He makes plays where he can. And now that EnVy has actually had some legitimate time to practice with the real roster, the real 5 guys that they're going to be carrying forward into the rest of the season, hopefully we're going to see some better synergy between him and the rest of the team to really make those plays shine.
Yeah, you hope so, because it's kind of time to put up or shut up. I mean, he's had time to be with the team, to practice, to kind of get comfortable there a little bit, and we'll see just how well he's going to be able to perform. And LirA, you know, he didn't have the best Rek'Sai performances. You talked a little bit about it. He farmed it out. He's looked pretty good, I would say, on Lee Sin. He's been able to make a lot of plays on that champion, but I haven't seen him really have a great game on a tank yet.
In the meantime, ReignOver going to be taking that bottom side scuttle crab control. Just provides a little bit of extra safety towards the bottom lane, as well as just putting extra money in his pockets. LirA's going to end up on the other side of the map. We're seeing a couple pings from the side of Liquid as the blast cone actually gets ReignOver over the Krug's wall, smiting that one away. Hakuho looking to provide a little bit of interference on this, but ReignOver's not really too distracted by those plans.
Not at all, and ReignOver has had great jungle pathing. Ninja kind of moving down to spot him out, but still, ReignOver will be able to get out of here no problem. He's stolen away a camp or two from his opponent, kind of foiled LirA's counter jungling efforts simply by taking a smart path, and now he is heading over towards that mid lane, but spotted out on a ward, and LirA could come to look for a counter gang.
Ninja pushing GoldenGlue up here in the mid lane, using some of that very powerful
Ninja knew he's coming.
creating potential. Can we see the actual 2v2 go down here? Ninja walking himself out. Realizes he's got a pretty safe path away from this one. The axe not picked up yet. ReignOver hanging around in a spot. He might be in some trouble. LirA looking to make some kind of a move. EnVy kiting themselves backwards. As the Valkyrie away from Ninja, a little bit of miscommunication there as LirA walks back in, takes some extra damage. Nobody really going to be hurt yet as Matt's going to be taken low. Heal is popped. Apollo going to be jumped on now too. Matt down to just barely any HP. One more auto attack would do it, but he's still getting himself out.
Really, really close there. And this has kind of been the story of the TL bot. They're willing to play really aggressively. It doesn't always work out for them, and more often than not has not been working out for them. But they've been known as this dominant 2v2 lane, and they are trying to make things happen. They are trying to get aggressive. But for now, they're a summoner down as Matt had to blow flash.
Yep, we saw the flash blown from Matt, and the exhausts and heals from both sides of that bottom lane expended. As Ninja's going to be forced to Valk away from GoldenGlue there in the mid lane. Still had his flash if he thought he needed it, but did not. But he's definitely going back to the summoning flash.
It can definitely be risky, though, because if your opponent flashes and gets that last auto, even if you flash, it's following you. And we have seen a number of times this season people go down to that sort of play. So either way, GoldenGlue does get wave advantage. We'll be able to deny some minions, and he's up early in CS, which is not something you have seen much from GoldenGlue this season. And he's been pretty devastated by his kind of underwhelming performances. You can see the emotion on his face last week. In some of those losses, definitely frustrated, definitely looking to improve and step up, and so far so good.
It never feels good to be at a point where you thought that you could have made more of an impact on a game, that your team ended up not being able to find that clutch win in.
Definitely.
But right now, with 44 CS compared to 33, like you said, he's off to a great start for himself. Hopefully he can translate this into some playmaking opportunities, into some real chances to carry as he gets closer to that level 6.
Yeah. Was really the big ticket pickup for this season. So many teams were trying to get this guy. Liquid, it's like they won the lottery. They got ReignOver. They have the world champion bot lane. Lourlo's doing a lot better. So much it felt like it was coming together for them. And really the big question mark had been kind of GoldenGlue and how he would perform. Right. And now that Liquid is off to a pretty poor start for their standards, a lot of the questions naturally will be kind of looking at GoldenGlue and saying, hey, is he the reason they're failing? These other guys have had much more success than GoldenGlue has in his career.
And you said it at the very start of this game before we even got into the picks and bans. Liquid is a team that people had higher expectations for than this. This was a team that people were really expecting a lot more out of, that's hoping to bounce back. And GoldenGlue might just be the rubber band they need to rebound themselves based on their current position as ReignOver heads towards this top part of the map, seeing what he can make happen. Seraph going to be flash taunted by Lourlo, but there's just, it's not there. ReignOver's not in range in time, and that's just going to be Summoner Spell blown.
Yeah, I mean, Lourlo, that was really ambitious. It wasn't even warded out. He doesn't know that, but he could have waited a lot longer. And ReignOver immediately knew that was not going to be a kill. Doesn't even bother popping Ghost, right? He saw that. It was way too early. Lourlo made a mistake, blows that Summoner Spell, and that's pretty big because that is kind of the big threat that the Shen has in lane is this gank. The gank assistance that Shen offers is superior to that of the Rumble, but as far as the one-on-one matchup goes, it's pretty rough for Shen.
A little bit too trigger happy, ends up resulting in a punishing situation, but now the 4-man dive opportunity in the top side. No flash on that Shen. Means escape is going to be a tall order. Piercing Arrow finds him a little bit. Can they make this dive work out? There comes your equalizer. Here comes your first blood. Going the way of LirA. Gets himself out alive as well. We saw a couple of those skill shots miss, but EnVy still makes it clean enough. And they're going to be grabbing turret first blood too, as GoldenGlue and Ninja now going to be 1v1ing here in the mid lane. Matt showing up to make sure Ninja's the one who has to retreat, and EnVy have a nice lead.
You gotta love this play from EnVy, actually. This is really smart from them. This is not something you see almost any of. First base, they rotate top lane, they pink it out, 4-man dive with the Shen flash down. No chance Lourlo's ever gonna get out of this, and that's first turret as well. So first blood, first turret, great roam here from the EnVy bot lane, and I really like this kind of play. That's very smart.
ReignOver showed up. You saw him use the Ghost to try to get there and stop it, but it's a 4 versus 1. A 4 versus 2 with him there. It's still not going to be held down at all. Great job from EnVy, showing off some of that coordination we were looking for. Is this what EnVy looks like when they practice? When they have the opportunity to practice?
It might be, but as Apollo said, their problem has really been more about mid and late game shot calling, right? They have been able to get leads. It just feels like they often cannot keep those leads. They can't expand the leads. They can't close out games. And that is really where we need to see them improve.
Well, it's at least a nice start for them. 9 minutes into this game with a 2,000 gold lead is a pretty good way to be sitting right now. ReignOver going to be passing that blue buff over to GoldenGlue, so he's going to be able to spam those spells nice and effectively, as LirA and ReignOver will find each other here in this bottom part of the river, but not really a fight anybody wants to have anything to do with right now. Package is available on Ninja, but usually what we see for these early game packages from the Corkis, they don't result in a lot.
Yeah, very often they don't, but Ninja is coming up to the top side. If Lourlo stuck around, he could have been taken down, but he is aware of it, is playing around it. You know, the bot lane, even though the CS is even, the fact that Envy had the push advantage and Piglet had a much later base allowed them to do that top lane turret trade and get away with it for free. There's really very little, if any, turret damage on the bot lane turret from Envy. So this was not even a trade. This was just a straight up win, but they're looking for Apollo.
Curtain call going to be opened up. Apollo in some trouble. Fourth shot finds him. Deadly Thirst going to be marking Hakuho. ReignOver's able to find one. There comes number 2. Liquid respond.
And that is big for Lourlo. He's in the tough matchup. He has to make those ultimates work. And it comes up big time as they get that double kill and now can look to even up the turrets. Unfortunately for him, he's going to fall a lot behind as far as farm goes, but that was big. They needed to make that first Shen ultimate work.
And that's the best part about having the Shen, right? You talked about it. You want to see curtain call opened up, Stand United come in, making the plays in the bottom lane. You don't even need a mid laner when you can pull the trigger like that with these guys.
Exactly, and that's a great global play there. It is always the advantage that you have to respect. And you know, Envy a little bit far up in lane here. It's not like they're crazy far up, but ReignOver blast coned over the wall out of line of sight there. They're flashed in from Matt, gets the slows down. In comes that Shen ulti, and there's just no escape for these guys. Easy first kill, easy second kill. Really well coordinated attack there from TL, and they're right back in it.
By the time they knew what was going on, it was already too late, as Ninja's going to be picking up a blue buff of his own. We know what blue buff Corki does, just rocket spam into rocket spam. Lane is going to be perpetually shoved up. Matt eating some damage from Hakuho. As the ward battle around Drake kind of starts to take off a little bit, both these teams kind of looking around this bottom river area, seeing who can get that control more effectively.
And the Mountain Dragons don't usually have a big effect in the early game, but being able to start stacking them up in that early game allows you to threaten things like the Baron and tower pushes a lot faster as you get to those later stages of the game. And it's definitely one that both teams are going to be looking towards to kind of expand their lead if the opportunity does arise.
Taking a look at those CS counts we were talking about earlier, mid lane is kind of all tied up after the advantage that GoldenGlue had found for himself earlier, so Ninja wasn't going to be letting him get away with that one for long. Biggest advantage actually right now is going to be the near 20 difference between Seraph and Lourlo there on the top side, as Seraph also now with his Liandry's Torment completed, if he can TP into one of these big fights that breaks out next, that's going to be a big game changer.
Yeah, certainly. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage, and that's one of the kind of nice things about Rumble is you can have very powerful mid-game and early-game team fights just as soon as you get, you know, even some components, some spell pen, and that ultimate. You become a monster, but Lourlo is holding his own here pretty well. He is down in farm, obviously, but he was 4-man dove. He ulted away from his lane, and he still has his TP, so that amount of farm is not a big deal.
Speaking of 4-man plays onto turrets, bottom lane going to be the call. Ninja in some trouble, can't bounce quite over the wall. Bullets coming through, the last one got him! Piglet gets the shot.
Yeah, Ninja failed the Valk over the wall, did a little too early there, so had to blow the flash and couldn't kind of use it reactively to dodge out. As a result, Piglet picks up that kill. It's true with that final bullet, and the TL bot lane off to the races a little bit here. All the action has been around that bot side.
Such a bummer for Ninja. Tried to Valk over the wall at maximum range, barely didn't get it, as now Matt and Piglet going to be in some danger bottom side, getting themselves back. Going to have to yield some damage onto that bottom lane tier 1 as they do. Seraph hanging around in the enemy jungle, seeing if he can find any opportunities for anything, but just sort of getting himself out of there right now. Not really anything to be done at this point in time. LirA rotating himself towards mid, clears out some of these creeps. Happily just going to accept that extra money while Ninja's away. But now that Ninja's back in the lane, he's got 3 Trinity Force components, which means that power spike is just inches away from coming online.
Yeah, it is really, really close. And thankfully for GoldenGlue, he at least has his Morello's already completed. He is up in farm, so you know, he is going to be pretty strong. And And sometimes we do see the Corkis go for that kind of early Hex Drinker just to be able to deal with any potential all-ins or anything like that. He has opted for the more aggressive build, and it makes a lot of sense against Orianna because Orianna, it's a lot harder to kind of go aggressive and pull off those all-ins.
Right, it's not a Syndra or something like that. Exactly. It's not somebody that can easily hit that 100-0 mark. As ReignOver moves towards the enemy jungle, going to be bound up. Shielded though. GoldenGlue making sure he's not in any real measurable danger right now. As Matt gets control over the Dragon Pit, fires that enchanted inner flame over the wall for a little bit of poke onto Hakuho. And both sides now with a turret under their belts and only 1,000 gold separating them. Anybody could make the call to go for this Mountain Drake once they feel comfortable.
They certainly could. Both top laners have TP. There's the ultimate available for Lourlo. I would look for TL to try to make a play around that Shen ulti and the Jhin ultimate, which is up now, and try to get a pick and then go for Dragon off that. This may be just that.
LirA tunnels right into 3 waiting members of Team Liquid. Curtain Call opens up. Second
Seraph
bullet hits the mark.
has the ultimate.
Fourth. There comes your ultimate. Equalizer's going to be down. Matt destroyed as the rockets continue to fly into Team Liquid players. They get themselves out with only 1 loss, but that's the power of the mid-game rumble.
It certainly was, but where was Lourlo in that fight? You know, you have to feel like the Shen ulti could have come in, and they could have maybe looked to turn around that fight, because it's probably not just going to be that 1 kill. Envy is going for the Dragon now. We'll see if Lourlo does pull the trigger on this at this point, as Rumble ulti is down. So that is a big one, and Rumble has walked his way topside. ReignOver's looking. Shen ult still is available.
Good job forcing the flash away from Hakuho. Ninja going to be soaking some damage. Stand united under GoldenGlue. Ninja almost killed. Lourlo makes it happen. That's going to be 1 going the way of Team Liquid.
Here's
Right
Seraph.
down to half HP. Seraph is here looking to keep his team protected long enough to maybe secure this Drake. Scuttle Crab is taken first. Drake down to about 1,500. ReignOver's hanging around. LirA's hanging around. Who's going to get it? That's going to be your question. ReignOver taken low. LirA's still there. ReignOver's going to be the target. They've got him. Apollo with the final shot as Piglet's going to be forced to flash out. More damage poured in. Piercing arrow pierces his heart. And Hakuho's got the kill onto Piglet at the end of the day. GoldenGlue also grabbing one onto LirA.
Very messy fight there. Kills going both ways. Envy does eventually get that Dragon, but what was the Jhin flank from Piglet? What was happening there?
I have no idea.
I have no words. He was basing, which probably was the right choice, or he had to walk around to his team, but the Jhin is just about the worst flanking AD carry in the whole game.
It's like he thought he was playing Vayne there for a second or something.
Yeah.
Like going in to make some kind of a big play, but then it's like, wait a second, you've got no mobility, you've got no real protection. And now, Envy's turret gonna fall there in mid lane, as well as the bottom lane turret for Team Liquid. So right as one team gets one, the other one immediately responds. Objective count is gonna stay tied in those turrets.
Certainly is, and you know, Envy, they, thankfully for them, are up in that Dragon. They're up, you know, a little bit of gold, but it's not a massive lead by any means at this point. It's really going to kind of come down to, I think, a lot of these mid-game team fights and seeing what these two teams can do, because Lourlo, he needs to continue to be proactive on the map, and this was a little bit of that. You can see this duel between GoldenGlue and Ninja. So GoldenGlue wants to wait out the exhaust here on the top side, does do so, lands the shockwave, and in comes Lourlo, able to finish up that kill. But then GoldenGlue is essentially completely out of the fight. He's very low on HP. He can't really contribute because if he gets tagged by 1 piercing arrow, he's going to be gone. Piglet was already basing in the bot lane. GoldenGlue is basing, and then they kind of call it off. So there's some mixed calls here, not exactly sure what the team wants to do. And as they go in, ReignOver, very, very low, does survive, but here's another fight.
Meanwhile, live, it's going to be Stranglethorns and Chains of Corruption and Curtain Calls all traded back and forth, but nobody's going to be killed just yet. An attempt was there, but the results are not.
Certainly not, but you have to like the try. I do think that you should continuously be using those Jhin ultis, looking for the pick opportunities. I do really like to see that, and being proactive, as I was alluding to a little bit earlier, is something that I think the Shen and just the whole team with the Shen needs to do, because that is the strength of the Shen. You have 2 globals, you have the TP and that global ultimate, so you need to continuously use them so that you can force out the TP, which is now down for Seraph, and then go again, and he cannot respond. And that's kind of how you get your big advantages.
Envy now the ones applying pressure to the bottom part of the map. Almost have that tier 2 down. Lourlo is going to be bound up by those vines as he tries to catch up, maybe pose some kind of a threat onto Ninja. LirA just stealing away the jungle as he goes. You are seeing that farm advantage we were kind of talking about earlier. Olaf, normally a very solid power farmer in the jungle, but going to be outdone by LirA's Rek'Sai, at least for now.
Yeah, and the Rek'Sai did not even go for that Tiamat build, not even kind of the power farm build. But what I really want to see from TL here is Lourlo should be matched up against Seraph, and then they look for a play, and they execute on that. This seems pretty straightforward, I feel like. Seraph used his TP at that dragon fight. He hasn't had this whole time. They need to make use of that. That's like the whole strength of the Shen. So put him in the same place as the Rumble, and then have him TP away, and you have a numbers advantage. You can look for those proactive plays, but they have been kind of not doing that just yet, and partly it's due to the lane assignments. I mean, if Rumble is not being matched by Shen, then Rumble going to like the fight where the fight is already at kind of cancels out that advantage that Shen has.
Lourlo matched up against Ninja right now, having to run away from this corki with the Trinity Force BF sword damage. Very, very strong. And Lourlo's really not that tanky yet. He's got a Bomby Cinder, a Spectre's Cowl, and a Tiamat. So he's not exactly going to be able to soak that damage for a long amount of time and just say, okay, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, he's definitely not a super tank, but the parry zone does help him out. His passive helps him out as well. He's going to get those shields, but TL looking again at Apollo.
Curtain Call opened up. 2 shots find Apollo. Third would have done it
ulti.
too as the ulti comes in. ReignOver looking to make a move. There's your taunt. Apollo locked down and beaten up.
Here comes Seraph.
There's number ultimate. 1. Seraph looking to make the ulti happen. ReignOver is going to be the counter kill at the start if they can find him. Equalizer down into the mid lane as the retreat from Team Liquid is out in full force. They don't want to be hanging around any longer. 1 for 1.
It is the 1-for-1 trade. A lot of cooldown spent there on both sides. Lourlo will have his TP, so we will have that advantage. We'll see if they can make use of that. But finally, TL does pull the trigger on that play. Unfortunately for them, Seraph has his TP up because they waited so long to do it. Had they done that a little bit earlier, he wouldn't have been able to respond, and they could have won that fight more heavily.
Now with Seraph's TP down, Lourlo's is still up at least. We've still got a global presence from this Shen, but
look for it.
Have to see what they can do with it as the bottom lane tier 2 falls on the side of Team Liquid. Going to be bringing EnVy up to a 3-2 turret advantage, a 3,500 gold lead. And here's a replay of how everything went down.
Yeah, and here is the fight one more time. Piglet looking for these ultimates. Seems to be doing them from very far away, so he's not able to get the full amount of shots off. But then there is the commitment from ReignOver and Lourlo. Taunt flash, nails it. Apollo is going down, does not have his flash available, but in comes Seraph with the TP. And track this shockwave here. Nice flash from Seraph. It only lands onto LirA, which is not a problem. That secures them another kill, and means GoldenGlue and the rest of TL will have to back off.
And look at the farm values now. 191 to 169 in that top part of the map. 127 to 119. When you're comparing the Rek'Sai to the Olaf, 800 gold advantage for Rek'Sai over Olaf. You've got a very slight gold advantage for Rumble over the Shen because he's got no kills, Shen does. Yep. But there's a reason that EnVy has this 3,500 gold lead at 21 minutes while they're down kills.
Yeah, it definitely is. And they have that extra turret, they have some farm advantages. You can see the kind of lethality builds coming into full effect from both sides. This is really the 2-item core of all these builds. You have the Ghost Blade plus the Edge of Night. You get that spell shield for some protection when looking for that poke. And if you go into runes and masteries for that extra lethality, you can actually hit a point where you're just dealing true damage to essentially anyone who doesn't build armor. And that is why it is so ridiculously strong now. It kind of breaks even a lot earlier than it previously had, and it's definitely a build with a lot of burst potential.
Now we're talking about EnVy's potential. We're talking about the lead that they have for themselves right now. As ReignOver finds 1 axe onto Ninja, not going to be going for more just yet, but the thing that we've got to be concerned about, the thing that I'm very concerned about for EnVy's sake, this is the point in the game, in multiple times already in the first 2 weeks of LCS, that we have seen EnVy commit mistakes and lose Barons or lose massive team fights into huge momentum shifts, and they got to be careful to not let it happen here as Ninja's going to be jumped on. There comes your ulti into your kill. ReignOver going to be kept alive too. They got the kill, they got the turret, and right as we're talking about mid-game disasters, EnVy has things shift against them.
Well, I mean, Ninja did his best there. Almost got that counter kill onto ReignOver, but that's exactly what you need to do as TL. Lourlo and ReignOver pair up. They make the dive happen. They get a kill. They get a turret, but they do lose their mid lane outer in exchange. So EnVy,
a good trade.
1 kill, but we'll at least trade the turret back.
Right, that's different from what we've seen from the previous iterations of EnVy in the past couple of weeks, where that would just be essentially unanswered, and then they start to actually lose control in the game. It looked like they were losing control, the grip was loosening, but then they just grabbed right back on. They're not willing to let go of this just yet. They're still holding on. They've still got a lead to work with at this point in time.
I am really interested to find out if Lourlo is actually going to go for the Seraph build. Building that kind of split push item had been very effective in some games. We saw Impact use it to great effect in some of his series. If you don't have someone who can kind of answer that split push, Shen can just get such big advantages simply by pushing out the waves more often than you can, dropping that portal by the turrets and just having those void minions take it out.
For those of you who may not be aware, remember that Zyra portal was actually changed around to where the minions themselves are a lot easier to kill, but they do way more damage to the turret.
Yeah, they don't go as far. So the idea is it's used more as an aggressive item than a defensive kind of stall-out type item. And that works really well with Shen because he almost always will have that global to move around the map. And it's not always the case for Rumble and for these other champions who are going to have to respond to it. You can't just ignore those minions because they do take down your turrets very quickly.
Meanwhile, EnVy is going to be grabbing themselves the second of the 2 Drakes to spawn this game. Going to be a Cloud to go along with that first Mountain Drake they picked up. Number 3, which will be spawning around 30-30, is going to be a second Cloud Drake. So we'll have to see if EnVy can maintain control over the map by then to get that one. And of course, that will be the final elemental you see spawning this game as Team Liquid going to be looking for the tier 2 in the top side to even up the turret count. That last Jhin auto attack finds it for them, as now they got to make their escape, as EnVy has no way to really do anything in retaliation.
EnVy was just kind of out of position there.
Yeah.
Shield just straight up walks up, takes an easy inner turret. That's not really something that should happen, but Teal has gotten themselves that advantage through the vision control they have over EnVy's blue side jungle. There was so many wards in that jungle, and now finally some of them are getting cleared out, but there's still 4 on that side, and there's no vision from EnVy. So they didn't feel safe to actually walk over and kind of contest that. But definitely a lapse in vision, and it does cost them.
Items starting to come online across the board. Those Sunfire Cape and Spirit Visage done on the Shen. Now he's kind of turning into that super tank we were talking about earlier. Tiamat, of course, for the split push effect that you were talking about as well. Abyssal Scepter now done for that Rumble. Even though there's no Sork Shoes, going for a more defensive option with the Mercury Treads, he's still going to be doing so much damage in this AoE.
Yeah, he certainly will, and he will be amping some of the rest of his team's damage. Having that Abyssal, I think, is pretty nice when you consider that a lot of magic damage is coming out of the Corki as well as Hakuho on the Zyra. So you have to remember it increases the magic damage done by 10% to those enemies. So,
and I believe it was actually the one game so far that EnVy has won last week versus Immortals, where it was Hakuho's Zyra that was the highest damage champion in that game out of all 10.
It can certainly happen, man. Zyra puts out a lot of damage, and the fact of the matter is it's so easy to poke. It's so safe to just drop those plants into bushes and constantly get little bits of damage here, little bits of damage there, and it adds up massively over the course of the game. It's kind of similar to Varus. Sometimes those numbers are really relevant. You're poking people off and getting objectives, but sometimes it is kind of lying to you because you're just hitting the, the full HP tank over and over or whatever and kind of just chipping away.
Matt going to be forced to run away as EnVy invades the Liquid jungle. Randuin's going to be popped. Ninja jumping forward, looking to make this happen. Stand United keeps Matt alive. Curtain Call going to be opened up too. Hakuho soaking all 4 bullets, almost flattening away from number 4. ReignOver looking to make the move to into the back line. Jumping on top of these guys. Lourlo drops Spirit's Refuge. Trying to keep everybody nice and tanked up. GoldenGlue's gonna be shot down in the back line. A double kill for Ninja. Lourlo now stranded in the middle of EnVy Island, and he is not gonna be getting out alive today. Apollo grabs it, 4 for 1.
That is a massive fight for EnVy, but what was GoldenGlue doing? He died without
no idea.
Shockwave. There were 3 guys in the red pit there, and GoldenGlue hesitated big time, was so scared of getting zoned out, doesn't even use the ultimate. And that is just massive, and now Piglet is trying to contest because they don't feel like they can give up this Baron, but I don't think there's any way he stops this.
It's gonna be some kind of a snowball's chance. Edge of Night gets popped on the Phosphorus Bomb. Piglet fires his deadly flourish into the pit, and now he's just gonna be another casualty. LirA chasing him down, and there's your piercing arrow, shot through the heart, and you're to blame, Piglet. You hung around a little bit too long, and EnVy, they got it.
Let's just watch GoldenGlue in this fight. I mean, EnVy goes for the proactive fight, but this was pretty expected from TL. I think they're kind of ready to make the collapse, and in comes GoldenGlue, and he has his Shockwave this whole time. He's getting kind of zoned out by LirA, and now, look at these guys. He has Flash, he has Shockwave. He needs to make some sort of a play, but he's very scared. He's backing off out of that Zyra ultimate, and he's kind of just hanging around. Now he's tanking the full Zyra plant, gets taken out by Apollo, never using the Flash, never using that Shockwave. He's not able to contribute, and yes, there are factors that you have to watch out for. The Zyra ult, the Rumble ult, that's tough to deal with, but you need more from your Orianna in a fight like that. The jungle corridors is kind of supposed to be where you shine on that Orianna.
That's your turf.
People naturally bunch up, and you're supposed to be able to look for those big ultimates in that situation.
1,025 damage in that last team fight from GoldenGlue was barely more than LirA put down as the tank on the side of Team Envy. Really nothing compared to the almost 4K that Ninja was able to do.
I mean, even Hakuho did basically as much damage as him. As a support, he had parts of a Leandries and some Obi boots. You know, it's not exactly a punishing build there.
But now with Baron secured, Envy sitting in a pretty nice spot for themselves. Piglet going to be knocked up, but LirA's taking a lot of lockdown and retaliation. Flashing himself away. Curtain call is going to be opened up. LirA soaking way too much damage. One more bullet. Seraph doing it. Equalizer into the back line. GoldenGlue having to run away from this one. It's 1-for-1. LirA for ReignOver. Junglers are out of the picture. Envy still has Baron. They've still got health bars, and they still got the push.
Yeah, I think that's a fine trade for them because the GoldenGlue Lourlo combo is a lot of your initiation. As TL, you need to be able to kind of charge in there and have this beefy front line that can disrupt the fight. And for now, it's looking like they're going to have to sacrifice at least this outer. We'll see if they will challenge for the next turret. GoldenGlue still does have that shockwave, and we still do have to give him the respect of having that 3 items on Orianna. He can turn around the game and turn around a team fight with just one button.
If he can get into a spot to press that button. That's the biggest if we learned about in the last fight. As now, here's how Piglet kind of baited LirA in a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, Piglet doesn't have his flash. They want to make the big play here, but there's actually not enough damage in place to really make that happen. It's just LirA and Ninja kind of going on that 2 versus the world mission. They do end up getting a trade kill, so it's not a disaster, but they really want to make an aggressive play, get that free kill on Piglet, and hopefully be able to crack the inhibs.
Third Drake going to be taken by Team Envy. Like I said earlier, that is the last elemental you're going to be seeing this game. After 35 minutes, everything is just going to be the big kahuna himself, the Elder Drake, which will be spawning just shy of the 37-minute mark, and Envy will be having themselves a nice burn if they can end up getting that. But they've got over 9,000 gold up right now, Azael. This is an Envy team that should be primed to convert this into a win.
They certainly are. So far, so good for Envy. They have kind of passed all the checks and balances here. They're looking good in the early game. They're looking good in the mid game, and they have been able to continue to expand that advantage. The next kind of check that they have to be able to get through is cracking the base, right? You have to be able to push this advantage now, be able to bust open that base, see if you can get something done there, because you don't want the game to stall out and allow Shen to kind of get to the point where his split pushing is pulling you around the map and really delaying the game, because you don't want Orianna and Jhin and these guys to really be able to kind of catch up to their counterparts.
And that's what Apollo was talking about, right? That mid to late game shot calling is what Envy needs right now. They need to be decisive, they need to be straightforward, and they need to end this game with this massive lead that they have, and with all the poke that they're constantly just plummeting into their enemy.
And we're also going to have to see LirA in good positions to block out any sort of curtain call that does come out here from Piglet, because he has the triple lethality items now. I have to imagine he is having the runes and masteries for that also, and anyone he catches besides LirA with those ultimate shots are going to do a ridiculous amount of damage with this much armor pen.
Especially with a squishy top laner like the Rumble compared to something that would be more durable. It's all about LirA to be that Kevlar vest for the rest of Team Envy, protecting them from all those bullets, keeping them safe, as Team Liquid has got to be wondering, how do we get ourselves back into this game? What is the possible play here? They're always on the back foot at this point. You can see all the wards being placed down by Envy in the Liquid side of the map. They've got them down in the lane, some in the jungle. They're just starting to take over more and more of this map and choke the life out of Liquid.
Yeah, for me, the plan for Liquid is stall. Keep split pushing, keep sending Lourlo, push out waves over and over, have the 4-man squad just continuously clearing those waves. Without Baron, your wave clear is fantastic. You can kill off those minions very, very easily. Olaf throws in an axe. You have the QW from the Orianna. That's pretty much a wave gone. So just continue to push out the waves, try to get Lourlo in a position to where he can be pulling people around the map, making them move and answer him, and then get that global advantage back. Because for now, when you're pinned into your base, you're not really getting much out of that global ultimate from Shen.
No surprise to see Envy focusing their attention on this top part of the jungle from Team Liquid, because they know Baron's going to be spawning in under 90 seconds now. And the next Baron should be a game ender for Team Envy if they can get it clean.
You would think so. definitely would be the goal for them to do so. It's up in a minute, as you said. They're going to try to start prepping vision around here. Obviously, TL is aware of this too, and they're going to be trying to contest the vision very aggressively so that when the Baron is up, they have some sort of a safety net, right? They have some wards that allow you to move a couple steps forward before having to worry about face checking into your opponents. And even just this kind of preliminary ring of wards that TL has put up does give them some safety to move in there and at least be able to check on if the Baron's being done.
This is definitely the moment for the game as it stands, because if EnVy grabs this Baron, that should just be it. If Liquid can manage to grab this, that could be the turning point that almost all of EnVy's other leads have resulted in, that ends up why they are experiencing a loss instead of a win, right? So both teams have to be incredibly tense for this upcoming Baron, because it should mean which Nexus explodes.
Definitely can, man. Sometimes we do see teams fail to close out with that Baron, though. So you always have to. You always have to have the Baron, but then you have to execute on it, right? It has to be both parts. You can't just kind of assume you're going to be able to end the game, because if one fight goes bad, even with that Baron buff, you can fall behind pretty quickly.
Waiting for something to happen when you can make the move yourself. Deadly Flourish going to be shot off, doesn't find anyone. Curtain Call opened up. One bullet onto LirA is all they're going to be getting.
Oh, that was a big rocket.
For something. Equalizer going to be big too. Seraph on the flank, exhausted in the middle. Going to be in some trouble if he's not careful. Zhonya's to dodge the shockwave. Only going to be finding LirA with that one. And Piglet is in the wrong place. Lourlo dashing himself away. Liquid in full retreat. Guardian Angel's going to be popped. Flame Spitters and piercing arrows. Oh my, Ninja grabbing the killing spree. 2 dead on the side of Liquid. And EnVy's got their fight.
Yeah, they are looking really good here. That was a great turn, a great fight. Piglet not able to get much of anything from that curtain call, and he's kind of going all in on it with this build, with that armor pen build. EnVy will move right back to Baron. 2 are down. This should be their Baron, barring an absolute disaster. And it looks like Liquid will not even check into it.
Meanwhile, Ninja looking to go for the solo kill onto GoldenGlue. Kapow!
That damage coming up from corki. He has the IE, the rapid fire, the spell pen even complete. And he just deleted GoldenGlue.
That was a lot of damage.
That's brutal, man.
I was expecting at least one more auto attack from that, but here's back in the fight, the Seraph flank.
Yeah, and the poke from Ninja followed up by that Seraph ultimate was great. GoldenGlue holding onto the ultimate for quite a long time here. Doesn't land it onto Seraph there, was looking to get that execution, and then only able to hit the tank. Once that happens, Piglet way too far up, doesn't blow the flash, gets taken down, and that is really all of the threat on TL already gone. No Jhin ultimate, no Orianna ultimate, AD carry dies, you cannot stick around.
And what were we saying? This is the week where EnVy has no more excuses. This is the week where EnVy has to step up, and right now they are doing it. Elder Drake going to be their target now, like we talked about earlier, with 3 elementals under the belt. That's going to be a very juicy 180 damage, true damage burn for these guys.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but Piglet picked up another serrated Dirk. Is there even something that builds into?
I don't think
he already has 3.
I think it's literally just a serrated Dirk for more lethality.
Just bought another serrated Dirk for more lethality.
Yeah, he's just going to sit on the component because it will only build into one of those 3 items.
Yeah. I guess he could build like double Ghostblade or something. I don't know.
I'm not really well versed
on the
item
about this
stacking builds. As Team Liquid now on their last legs, got to be defending this base. Inhibitor turret number 1 already done. Ninja putting the damage into inhibitor number 1 as well. So much offensive capability on a team that's baroned up with Elder Drake. They've got the minion wave bottom. They're going to be converting this into a second lane of inhibitor turret and inhibitor. As Liquid just can't find the opportunity to go in safely. Lourlo's going to be shielded. ReignOver looking for some kind of a flank. Ninja's going to be taunted up. Redemption comes down. Ninja back over the wall. Going to be taken down, though. 1 for 1 so far. ReignOver's in the dirt. That's going to be 2 more. Liquid is done for. Hakuho zoning GoldenGlue away. It's a 3 for 1. Lourlo and GoldenGlue have got to pull off some kind of a miracle today, as EnVy is not willing to give them the opportunity. Nexus turret's under fire. Number 1 is out of here. Number 2 going to be turn 2 next, as LirA's looking to make the dive onto GoldenGlue. He's got him. And there is just no chance for Lourlo to stop this. EnVy takes game 1.
They look good. This was a clean game from EnVy. They're leading from the start. They're making plays around the map. And they have to give themselves a lot of credit for this one. Ninja was massive, but really Seraph in that last fight just decimated the back line, and it was a contribution across the map. You know, these guys made smart plays. They had some good plays in the early game, that rotation top lane, giving them the dive, giving them that first turret gold, that injection of gold, and they were able to use that to snowball and get picks and get objectives. It just looked like a strong team.
And we talked about how this is the kind of champion Seraph likes to play. This is the kind of champion they want to have Seraph on, that carry potential. Did a phenomenal job with it. Just the positioning, the damage he was able to do. 1-0-9, his final score. No deaths on the Rumble. Great job.
Yeah, he did very well for himself. I'd love to see the damage numbers comparing Apollo to Piglet, because Apollo was so far ahead as far as the build order goes and the gold goes, and it just felt like Piglet was not able to really ever get anything done on the Jhin. It felt like he was always opening up with these ultimates from too far away and getting 1 or 2 shots before they're out of range of it, and it just didn't really feel like it ever came together, besides Lourlo and ReignOver kind of making a few dives in the early game happen. You know, they used that combo pretty well in the early game, but besides that, you know, GoldenGlue never got rolling, Piglet never got rolling, and that was all their damage.
Team Liquid was just forced into a spot where they had to play EnVy's game, and EnVy was like, we don't want any part of this Shen split pushing, stand united into somebody else, unexpected package delivery thing. No. We're just not going to play this. They made Liquid play their way, and they did a phenomenal job doing it. We're going to throw things over to the analysts now to see what they want to make of that EnVy win. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, CaptainFlowers. What we make of it is a well-played game. Honestly, Team EnVy came in with a plan. I think the champ select was fine, and then they played the champions the way they should be, and generally snowballed a game that was well played.
Yeah, I actually really liked EnVy's draft. It kind of reminded me of how I wish the Immortals draft had gone with Jace top instead. But it's a very well thought out composition that has the disengage for the 2 marksmen on the team. It has AP carry top laner so that they're able to actually do a mixed amount of damage all across the spectrum. And then they have their tank in the jungle. So I thought it was really well thought out here. Some questions for the TL draft though. Just the early priority on the Jhin where you really don't have to take it. The Zyra, because you don't take it in your side, immediately will get picked up, and then they have Varus Zyra, which is like the 2 best champions.
The literal 2 best champions in the role on both sides. Yeah, apparently your mic's not working, so you've got a new one for yourself.
Oh, well, I've got one.
Everybody missed everything I said. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah, basically you said that their draft is good. They have Zyra and Varus, again, the 2 best champions in the role, and so they've got priority. And we talked a little bit about it in the previous game when we were analyzing Game 2 of the Immortal set. Priority means that you can dictate how the lane is played. You can say, if we want it to be under your turret, it's under your turret. If you want it under our turret, it's under our turret. You can't fight us head-to-head. We have control of what we do, and we get to act first. And what this turned into was the First Blood top lane, which is super well played by Team EnVy. Their bot lane has priority by playing Varus Zyra. There's a reason they're so sought after, where they've already recalled. They've dictated there's no chance they can be matched here. Satchel over the wall. They are always here first. And whether or not Lourlo has burned his flash doesn't matter. This turret is gone, and he's maybe gone with it.
I absolutely love the way that they played this because they used the equalizer across the back of the turret, so he has no escape. He has no options here. And Seraph, a very vocal member of the team, it's good to see that they're playing towards him a little bit more now, and that's the English-speaking bottom lane, right? Yep. Previously, when we were looking at a team like Apex last split, we were like, these are 3 Korean speakers, and then they have a bottom lane that EnVy as well.
Yeah.
Right? 2 English speakers in the bottom lane, and they had 3 Koreans from mid, jungle, and top. That doesn't seem to be the story of that play right there. That seemed like a very well-coordinated dive that everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to do, and it was planned even like 45 seconds ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly. It's saying, hey, you know, make sure you got pressure on this side of the map. Junglers stay around here. We're going to recall, make the play, be there on time. And the game snowballed out of control. It was EnVy playing a fairly squishy comp, right? 4 squishies in 1 tank. LirA's got to be the frontliner there. And they just kept finding the good team fights. Our next replay, a 27-minute team fight that turns into a Baron. And it's the fact that they've got the goalie. They can kind of push their way around. Like, they can face check into the jungle, and it's totally fine here.
They can go ahead and just muscle their way in. Even Piglet's kind of flanking again on the Jhin, so he doesn't have a frontliner, anybody to really absorb for him, so he's off on the side. And this right here is GoldenGlue just not being able to just walk straight up. He gets zoned out by Hakuho, who honestly just is his dying breath there saves this team fight because it zones off GoldenGlue, who then just tries to reposition, but everybody is already out of the Brambleback pit, where that's where you want that shockwave. You want to slap the ball with the E onto ReignOver or onto Lourlo because they're in the thick of the fight, and he doesn't get the 2-man or even 3-man shockwave there. Doesn't even get to cast it at all.
Yeah, and I think that is a mistake by GoldenGlue. I still think we're seeing these issues from Liquid. I know the casters were talking about it a little bit. It's like, oh, you've got all these known quantities on Liquid. Lourlo's playing better. ReignOver is such a high-profile pickup. Eyes are on GoldenGlue to be good. And it was hit and miss. Like, he had a good laning phase. He pushed Ninja out of lane early on, had a lot of pressure, nearly killed him once or twice, and it felt like GoldenGlue was reasonably solid early on, but you have mistakes like that where it's just like, the buttons on your keyboard, just hit it at some point.
Yeah, it was also a really interesting draft for him because he picked Orianna, very last pick, I believe, and they had banned Cassiopeia in their second round. They banned Gangplank and Cassio. So why don't you ban Orianna and you pick Cassiopeia for yourself, and then you get to counterpick Seraph.
Exactly, you get to set up the matches better. And you know, you talk about Seraph, player of the game for us here. Rumble did very well for himself. Lower kill participation, but again, we're talking about priority being important. Constantly shoving Lourlo under his turret, you know, punishing anytime he does TP out of lane and getting more damage out there was, you know, part of the reason they knock everything down in the very first place. And look, it's just a solid game overall, very high damage. And the fact that you've got all this backline access, you can just rumble anytime Jhin hits R. It's like, we countered you, enjoy that.
I love that as well. That's something that people aren't seeing as much of, but we're going to see the Gangplank now. We're going to see the Rumble. We're going to see the Jace even more. A lot of these guys were really frustrated with like some Courage of the Colossus users, and now that everybody's kind of going back to Grasp a little bit. Yeah. And Courage has been nerfed. Everybody's like, oh yeah, these are really good champions that we can play. So the carry top laners like Seraph, like Flame, they'll definitely be gravitating towards these champions more, which is cool. Exactly. That's how you abuse it too, right? We've seen Flame have priority in lane, and then he kind of has to take it over by himself. This was like, you got his flash. He blew his flash in a play that did not work out. We're all coming top lane to help you push that advantage and make that into a game-winning play that can snowball. And I like that from Envy. And that is a big deal, because if you do play the more risk-averse team comp of tank top, tank / fighter jungle like a Rek'Sai, release him, building tanky later on, standard team fight mid, standard poke AD carry, like standard mage support, like everyone can play those comps and they're all very normal. And if you're behind or ahead, you can still kind of pilot it okay. If you're playing massive numbers of squishies, and especially if it's a poke-focused team, you don't play well from behind. You're supposed to win lanes, so you can use that to push the game farther ahead, but you have to keep acting. You've got to keep being the pressuring team, the one actually making the plays. But if you do, you have games like this where it never felt like Liquid really had the game in reach. It felt like the advantages kind of kept growing. I mean, there were a couple of kills, like there was the one Shen on the bot side, like there were plays, but it always felt like Envy were doing more. That's the thing, is Envy were being proactive, which is good to see, because then they get to push their advantage and not have it rubber band back on them. But against the Shen composition, that's always incredibly risky. So you do have to appreciate the way that Envy played it, because they had to be proactive and tiptoe, not really disturb anything, and make sure that the Shen doesn't get like a really good ultimate off, or that TL get in a position where, oh no, you can't reach Piglet, and we have Shen in your backline. And now he's invincible, so the game's over. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But hey, a well-played game by Team Envy. Finally, a game win on the board. I think they're second of the season so far. We'll see if they can make it their first match win overall. Let's see if they can close it out, or if Liquid can finally bring themselves back into this one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Game 2.
Hi guys, all we have to do today is be less tilted than them. They already look on full tilt. I saw all their faces, they're all like demoralized already.
Can they make this dive work out? There comes your equalizer, here comes your first blood. Going the way of LirA. That's gonna be your quest. ReignOver taking low, LirA's still there, ReignOver's gonna be the target, they've got him! Apollo with the final shot as Piglet's gonna be forced to flash out. More damage poured in, piercing arrow, pierces his heart.
Olaf first. I get it.
Watch here.
I got Ori.
Did watch it.
Okay, go. We can.
Shen
first.
Come on,
Jhin. I have a CA. One more go. Olaf first.
Ninja's gonna be taunted up. Redemption comes down. Ninja back over the wall. Gonna be taken down though. 1 for 1 so far. ReignOver's in the dirt. That's gonna be 2 more. Liquid is done for. Envy takes game 1.